I won't be showing graphs, I won't be showing analysis, or I'll just be sharing my photographs, experiences ko while I was covering the drug war since the start, since 2016. Ano na bilang? What's the number now? Police have owned up to around 4,000 killings from police operations. And there are, they say, around 16,000 killings, unexplained. Masyado na maraming patay. And I guess what we're doing is we try to document as much as you can. That someday these photographs will serve its purpose. 10, 15 years from now, in the hopes of, sana, this won't happen again. This photo is Jesus Jonas. He was an alleged drug pusher, and he was killed in Quezon City during the 100th day of the president. And it's the usual narrative we hear. Drug pushers being killed, and they said they fought back. Nanlaban. Before ako magtumuloy, I see some children here. I know these images are quite depressing and graphic. So, and the shadow in the background, it's a police officer actually. And it's up to you kung anong gusto ko sabihin sa litratong to. Another victim, his name is Gilbert Belgume. He's part of the petition of the writ of amparo filed in the Supreme Court. And Gilbert Belgume, before he was killed, they say he witnessed another killing of Alvin Mendoza, who also was killed in that same area in San Andres, Bukid, Manila. And he allegedly saw these vigilantes and was able to identify some of them. And he's saying he knows some of them. And before he could testify, he was being forced to testify. I mean, he was also killed. And we have no name. Some call us the night crawlers of Manila, the night shift photographers, EJK journalists. But for the many supporters of the president, we've been called so many names. Dilawan, ano pa? Destabilizers, paid media, paid by drug pushers, drug dealers, prostitutes. We have so many names, but we really don't care. We really don't care. They can call us whatever they want. And it's not going to stop us in documenting and hearing the other narrative. And we are an unofficial group of journalists, some working for media agencies, but mostly freelancers who cover this Philippine war on drugs. And for many months now, our reports have been all too similar, that many people, mostly the poor, are being killed without due process. At the start, every night, we would hang out in this press office in MPD, sa Manila Police District Office. There's a press office there. And we stay there from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., sometimes 5 a.m. Why? Because sometimes that's the time when street sweepers will find victims of summer execution. These are victims who are wrapped in packaging tape, dump bodies in the streets. And some nights, there are no bodies found. Most nights, there are at least 1, 2, 5, 10, and the most was 32 in one night. This happened on August 15, 2017 in Bulacan. And guess how many media were able to cover it? None. 32 in one night. And when the president was asked the following day about the 32, what did he say? he said it was good. Dapat ganyan lagi tayo. Ganyan karaming pinapatay. And true enough, that night, another 26 were killed. And the following day, another 24. And it was the bloodiest week of the drug war. More than 80 people were killed. And these included Qian De Los Santos, Ronaldo de Guzman, and Carl Angelo. I use a still camera. I don't have the luxury of sound. And what I'm trying to show here is a crime scene. It's Paul Lester Lorenzo, and it's the first time they were able to see the family. The family was able to see their loved one. And gusto ko pakita yung emotion, yung scream ng family the first time they see it. The body. Without life. And andito yung wife, daughter, the whole family. And I could remember one of our colleagues was there. He was bit new sa photography, sa photojournalism. And I'm sorry for my language, but he was saying, putang ina, putang ina, putang ina, putang ina, over and over again. And I had to slap him out of it. Gumising ka, trabaho tayo. And we built our network for monitoring these killings. We gather information from fellow journalists, fixers. Fixers are yung guides ng foreign media. Policemen, even at the start, policemen were actually tipping us where these bodies. They were proud of it. Some would even go to the bodies and have their pictures taken. Concerned citizens, tanods, village watchmen, funeral workers, and random posts on social media. Like this one. There was we found in Twitter, someone was posting that he was able to see this crime scene, and he was able to see this person who was begging for his life. He was sumusuko na siya before he was shot dead. And I started covering, the drug war back in July 2016. And this is the first crime scene I covered. I remember this. 10 minutes in the night shift, there were already 3 bodies found. And this was in Manila. 3 alleged drug pushers were killed. And later on, there were 3 in Taguig. But buti na lang buhay sila in a buhay bust operation. But to cap the night, there was a body dumped in Taft Avenue. There was a tricycle, then there was a sack being thrown. Inside the sack was a body, just like that. And that placard saying that this was a drug pusher, do not copy. I don't have to mention this. He promised this during the presidential campaign. He promised this. And it's been like a spectacle, all these crime scenes to many of the people. And it's not always like this. Sometimes you see these people laughing. As if it's so normal to see a dead body already. And share ko lang sa inyo to. There was time I really snapped because there were these people who were taking selfies beside the body, laughing. And I had to confront them. Ano bang nakakatawa dito? Ganito na ba tayo? May advertisement. I remember there's this advertisement using that tokhang, that phrase, nanlaban. For an insecticide in a billboard. During Halloween, I remember some people were using plastic bags and portraying summary execution victims being displayed in their houses. I even saw this store, and the name of the store is Tokhang Sizzlers. And their menu was using these phrases. Nanlaban na nakabalot na tao. Ganito na ba tayo? And during the first days, I could remember these people taking photographs of dead bodies. And I could hear them saying, buti nga sa'yo. Hayop ka. Yes, the government denies that the killings are state-sponsored. But it does not help that the president promotes these killings during his speeches. We all know this. Ilang beses na natin ito narinig. And he said this. And there are so many more. And compared to my first day, this is not my first time to be in the night shift. I covered it also back in 2007. So I could compare what's happening before and now. And I could always say, I've covered more dead bodies in 2016, in my 1 month alone, compared to my whole year of 2007. That's how alarming the situation is. And people will say, dati pa naman ito nangyayari. Dati pa nagkakapatayan. Yes, of course. Nangyayari na yun dati, but not at this magnitude. And I will talk about this photo. It's the photo of Jenny Lenolaires holding her partner, Michael Ceron. He was a pedicab driver, and he was an alleged drug pusher who was killed by vigilantes, riding in tandem. And I knew there was a strong photo. Malayo pa lang. Rarely do you see a family member beside the victim inside the police cordon. Up to now, it's a very traumatic experience for many of the photographers who were there. Because matagal to mga 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. And she was shouting at us to already stop taking photographs and help them. And we couldn't do anything. We just had to do our job. There was a police officer beside me, and I was asking, why don't you help him? And he just replied, patay na siya, he's already dead. We just have to wait for the forensics. And she was holding on to her partner because she was feeling if Michael Ceron was still warm, if buhay pa siya. And I knew there was a strong photo. But if it would be used in the newspaper, yun yung question. I used to work for the Philippine Daily Inquirer, and usually the Sunday edition of the Inquirer are reserved for positive stories. Rarely will you see anything negative being printed. And surprisingly, when it was used, with this headline, on a Sunday, I knew it would have impact. The photo became viral, and ngayon lang, pinag-uusapan na yung drug war and the killings. There was now conversation for or against the drug war and the killings. At least may conversation na. And people were saying that the photo gave a human face to the victims of the drug war.
Okay, let us be clear with each other. I am for the comfort
First State of the Nation address
of the Filipino. Kayo namang hindi pa bungog dyan, hindi pa pumasok yung mga droga. Kung ayaw ninyong mamatay, ayaw ninyong masaktan, huwag kayong umasa dyan sa mga pare pati human rights na hindi nakakapigil yan ng kamatayan. So huwag ninyong gawin, tapos nandiyan ka, nakabulagtag, and you are portrayed in a broadsheet na parang Mother Mary cradling the dead cadaver of Jesus Christ. Ayan yung mga yan Magdadramahan tayo dito.
And when I heard it sa radio, na-shock ako. I was shocked. I had two reactions. First, I was a bit sad that the president had to take a swipe at the family already, give them the dignity already, that they're grieving for the family. Sana hindi na nila niya sinabi doon, yun. But secondly, when he mentioned about the photo, nagka-more impact yung photo. And I felt that I reached the person, the person kung sinong dapat marating ng photo. And it was the president. And saying it during his first State of the Nation address gave a different life to the photo. It created more impact. Pero pagkatapos nyon, the attacks came. After that, people were saying that the photo was fake. I staged the photo. I hired actors. I did the whole production because there were top shots, may mga drone shots. But if they were just there, this was the crime scene. If they were just there was just a footbridge. The dramatic lighting came from different light sources, TV, flashlights. I didn't use my flash. I just used whatever light source there is. And I felt bad that people were destroying the credibility of the photo and believing on that narrative, on that story, instead of just taking in the message of the photo. Tama yung pagka-label sa kanya. I never mentioned the name Pieta in the photo. I never said that in my caption. I never did. People called it Pieta because of the resemblance to the famous sculpture of Michelangelo of the dead Jesus Christ being cradled by Mother Mary. At what was more appropriate was the word Pieta. Pieta, it's Italian for pity. Pity for the victims of the drug war and the families. I think that's the most important message of the photo. And later on, I wanted to know more about Michael Sharon, and this was where he lived. He was living in this barong-barong, and this is not a road of garbage. It's actually a creek full of garbage. And he was living there, your drug pusher. And I'm sorry, he lived like a rat. And these are the typical people who are being killed. 200 pesos of shabu, that's your life. I've seen people getting caught with drugs, millions and millions of worth. And they're alive. They get due process. Is that fair?
This was actually my first crime scene. July 18, 2016. It was around 8 o'clock. You see the red light, the digicam. Before the flash, you have the red light. This homicide investigator. The police said na, again, nanlaban. Undercover police officer went to buy drugs from him. He allegedly pulled out a gun and fought back. And there he is. Later that night, I remember I would go on to cover around 7 more dead bodies. And as the months progressed, like every night there would be more than 10, even more than 20. We would receive reports, but we couldn't run to all of them. There were too many. This photo was taken around August of 2016. It was at Parañaque City Jail, outside Parañaque City Jail. These are the guys with the masks. They are jail guards. They were sent there as reinforcements, I remember. The incident was, there was a grenade blast inside the jail, which killed 10 inmates. Coincidentally, 8 of them were on trial for drug-related cases. The official statement of the of the warden was that this group of prisoners, they asked for an audience with the warden. Upon entering his office, they allegedly had guns, like submachine guns and a grenade, and that's when the grenade blast happened. So of course, when they gave that official statement, I was with other reporters, radio reporters, TV reporters. One of them gave the report on DZMM. And I remember right after he gave the report, the prisoners inside the jail became rowdy. They were shouting, DCMM, DCMM, they were, mali yun, that's not right, like that. And apparently they were listening. They had a transistor radio, and you could hear them shouting, walang sumabog, pinaputukan lang nila kami. A few months after this, there was a riot in another jail, Manila City Jail. A lot of injuries. But the cause of the riot was because this new warden that came to the jail, he wanted to segregate those who were there for drug-related cases apart from the other crimes. So he wanted one place for all the prisoners who were there for drug-related cases. And they were afraid, and they started this riot. And upon finding out who the warden was, it was the warden back then of this jail. And this is Isabelita Espinosa. This was around December 2016. December 28, those who are familiar with Catholic holidays, it's the Day of the Holy Innocents. Her son had died, Sonny Espinosa. He was 15 or 16. Along with Sonny, in total, 7 were killed. This was in Bagong Silang in Caloocan. Apparently, there was a target of an alleged drug pusher, and these gunmen, apparently, they fired at the wrong houses. They fired at 2 houses, killing 7 people, including 3 minors and a pregnant woman. And Raffy was mentioning earlier on August 15, 32 people were killed in Bulacan in police operations. It was like the deadliest night. And yeah, the following day, Duterte in his speech said, maganda yon, makapatay lang tayo ng mga another 32 every day, then maybe we can reduce what ails this country. And that night, I remember Raffy was abroad, but I was there, me and my colleagues, we were there to cover with what would be the bloodiest week in the drug war. Some would estimates are 80 to 100. So that night, 26 were killed in Manila alone. Following photos are some of the scenes from that week. The following day, another 32 were killed in Metro Manila. And I can remember, like, I've covered this since July, and back in the first few months, it was very tiring, like going from one crime scene to another. But this week, probably, this was very exhausting week. Like, we would get a call for one crime scene, and on our way, we get a call for 3 other crime scenes. Like, we didn't know where to go next. It felt like chaos. We were imagining at the back of our heads those other crime scenes we couldn't run to. These were police officers. They were part of the drug enforcement unit of Caloocan Police. They're the ones who usually conduct those bypass operations. And like the bodies were piling up. This was taken in one of the morgues. And on that night, there were so many bodies that they couldn't keep track. So they just placed a number on the leg to identify the body because they were very busy. They were in and out of the morgue. And when I saw this, it really was like they literally became statistic. They had no name. They just had number. This was number 4. This is Qian De Los Santos. So of course, you know what happened. For those who are not familiar, he was allegedly killed in a police operation. Galugad, tawag nila. They entered the community, the police, and apparently they said that Qian fought back. And that's where he was killed by police officers. But a CCTV video surfaced which saw him being carried away by the police officers in plain clothes to a dark alley where he was then shot. They found the gun on his left hand, but he was not left-handed. And this was the week, this killing, it was highlighted in the media, and like for us, for our group, it was like finally, it was given, the issue was given attention. Like a lot of people voiced out against the killings, and like me and the group, one thing we were happy, finally, is being given notice. But on the other hand, we were kind of frustrated because at this time, it was 10,000 deaths. It took 10,000 deaths for people to start condemning it. And now it's around 20,000. Same week, this was the mother of Ronaldo de Guzman, Lina Gabriel. This was in Nueva Ecija. Ronaldo was 14 years old. He was last seen with Carl Arnaiz. They were last seen in Taytay, Rizal. And a few hours later, Carl was part of a shootout in Caloocan, like 9-10 kilometers away. He was a teenager. And upon interviewing the family, he was like kind of depressed. He didn't like to go out of the house a lot. So why would like someone like that suddenly go out in the middle of the night? And police said he held up a taxi. Nang-hold up siya ng taxi sa Caloocan. And they found shabu and marijuana on him. So, Carl, when a week after Carl was buried, Kulot was still missing. Then his body was found in Nueva Ecija, this time, 100 kilometers away. They found his body in a creek with his head wrapped in tape, and his body had 30 stab wounds. I'm not gonna show the picture, but like when I saw the picture, you could see all the stab wounds, like it overlapped. The holes overlapped, and the holes were very big. This guy was 14 years old. So this was the funeral of Qian De Los Santos. I think what drives us to keep documenting is we just want it, we don't want the issue to die down. Like, we can feel that the people are getting used to it. Like Raffy mentioned, the people are already joking about it. It's become normal. When we saw this, nasara nila EDSA. These were neighbors of Qian. Nasara nila EDSA. And like right now, there are some protests, there's some condemnation, but personally, I think it kind of died down again. Parang, not for me to criticize my own countrymen, but parang ganun na lang ba tayo? Parang forgive and forget na lang ba? Parang enough na lang ba na nag-share tayo sa Facebook na kinokondemn natin to? It doesn't end there.